Thank you, TJ, for being here. Looking forward to the discussion. And
Absolutely.
thank you everybody for joining along. Um, I do recognize some faces in here, but for those I haven't met, I'm Clark. I'm the compounding account executive here at TJM Labs. Essentially, what that means is I work with compounding pharmacies, help them kind of think through automation, think through good places to start, help them understand like how this is actually done. My background is in pharmacy, right? So I'm a pharmacist. I worked in compounding for about 2 years prior to this. I mean, also spent some time in a high volume retail store. So very familiar with kind of what it looks like behind the bench and some of the challenges that pharmacies face. But I mean, today I've kind of structured like some of the questions. It'll be a more of a back and forth discussion, but I really want to kind of walk through like the entire story arc of how TJ and ReviveRX started using this automation. So, we'll start with, a little bit about how they used to be in the former state, as then go into kind of how they started onboarding and the decisions they made, and what that actually looked like, and then lastly get into like current state, and then going into like what they're looking into in the future. So I think that kind of leads into the first question for TJ. Well, TJ, if you could like introduce yourself, introduce Revive, kind of what your role is there, and like what you're responsible for, that'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Clark, first and foremost, thank you so much for the invite and happy to chat with you. So, ReviveRX, we're a 503A compounding pharmacy, and we provide custom patient-specific medications to most of the United States, right? We're not in every state yet, but we're pretty close. Myself, pharmacist by trade, been at Revive for 6+ years now, which is crazy to say. And currently, I hold the position as Senior Director of Process Optimization. Certainly a mouthful, but really, I sit at the intersection of sales and pharmacy operations. Wear a lot of different hats, but the end goal is always the same, which is drive as many revenue generating events into Revive as possible, right? And at the same time, trying to give our customers and clients or customers and clinics confidence that we're a one-stop solution for their growing needs. So currently, myself, I lead a team of 10 high-performing pharmacy technicians, each assigned to a sales representative and territory manager. We call these technicians clinic support technicians, and they're the backbone of the sales team, making sure clinic communication and prescription processing are always moving in the right direction. So that's been a big part of how the sales team itself, has been able to scale. And to be honest, scaling Revive in general has been a lot of fun. Always a challenge, but a fun one, no doubt. And you'll notice, Clark, not once did I mention yet automation or AI, but one initiative I did take on last year was going out and finding some type of data entry automation to help us scale, right? And that's how we found TJM.
Awesome. Yeah, that idea of like having those technicians that are going into sales, that's kind of interesting. Did they start off as technicians and then they kind of adopted a sales role over time, or how did that come about?
Yeah. Well, as we talk, we'll kind of come full circle, but a lot of these technicians were data entry technicians where we were like, hey, you guys are high performing, and because of what TJM is doing for us, we have some opportunity for you guys to elevate your role and do some new things with the company. And I don't think this is a novel role. I'm sure other pharmacies are doing this where it makes sense that a salesperson should have a technician that is able to do their bidding for them inside the system. But we here at Revive think that these technicians are just a step above, and they are, helping close most of the sales process from clinic to clinic. And that's, once again, thanks to TJM providing this automation so that we can take humans and put them in more purposeful roles.
Awesome. Yeah. I don't mean to get too
No.
far ahead of ourselves here, but I guess if we could take a step back, I guess before you actually started working with TJM, you started bringing AI into the workflows. I guess what were some of the larger like operational challenges that you had seen? Like what was making it kind of difficult for you to be more efficient and grow?
Yeah. So, like I had mentioned, most of the work last year and and the beginning of this year was figuring out how to reduce the admin load that comes with our prescription volume, right? That was a huge challenge. I truly believe it's not fair to ask a human to type the same prescription, 600 times a day. You had mentioned you have a retail background, you can appreciate what 600 prescriptions truly means, although it's apples and oranges between retail and compounding. But there's more meaningful work, right? And there are tougher prescriptions that genuinely require human judgment that aren't these monotonous, very catalog-based prescriptions, right? So that is what we were trying to solve for. On top of that, one challenge was that, if a team member can type 500 prescriptions a day, every additional 500 in volume meant hiring another person, right? So that's a linear headcount problem, a linear headcount challenge. And I remember, looking at our hiring plan and realizing that if we kept growing at this rate that we wanted to, we need to keep adding data entry technicians indefinitely, right? Just to keep the pace with volume, not even to grow the business further, just to keep pace. So that's when it hit me. We were not solving a capacity problem. We were really just delaying one. Every new clinic we signed meant more headcount forever. At some point, you have to ask, right, is this scalable, or are we just running faster on the same treadmill? And then stage right enters TJM.
Oh yeah, it sounds pretty familiar. Like a lot of the conversations I have, they come to me and they're looking for data entry solutions, right? Even with my experience, that's part of the reason why I joined on to TJM, just because with my time in pharmacy, like that's such a monotonous role. Um,
Yeah,
and if you have a really high volume or high value technician, like it's not always great to have them stuck in that queue.
absolutely. And that's not to take away from the data. We still have a data entry team, right? I'm sure we'll discuss what prescriptions are currently being typed by TJM and which ones aren't. But um, even if we could take them away from the monotony of typing the same prescription and just throw them into the more challenging ones, the ones that help them, stretch their brain and just to think a little bit differently, like that's a win for the human that is, here working hard day in, day out. So
100%. So, um, you started with us pretty early in our history, right? Back in, I mean, it was over a year ago, I believe today, back in like mid 2025. So I guess you were considered like one of the early adopters of this, and we've grown a lot since. But I guess what ultimately convinced you to like actually, pull the trigger on investing in AI when it wasn't such a proven out thing, I guess, at the time? And I guess what confidence do you have in TJM being the partner for that?
yeah, so it was pretty much a call to action from our owners, right? I heard from our owners that we needed to be more tech forward. It's a brave new world out there. We know that with AI, kind of, steering the ship, and that was enough to convince me to go and see what I could find and to help not only myself but other team members help me, find the solution. So, we went out there, we searched, and just through some polling and word of mouth, TJM kept coming up from a few different connections, right? And that's where the relationship started. So you guys had positioned yourselves as a solution using AI to read prescriptions of all kinds, e-scripts, faxes, other means, any custom portals that we may have had, and be able to enter those prescriptions directly into our pharmacy system. So, right then and there, we're like, okay, this certainly fits what we're looking for. And it felt at least you guys presented it as a low friction adoption of something new in a famously like high friction industry, which is compounding pharmacy, right? There's a lot of nuance to compounding and how you kind of get prescriptions in the door. So, you there was no ripping out of systems, no rebuilding workflows. You gave us the assurance that everything was HIPAA compliance and you guys were not retaining any of our data, right? Like zero data retention was big on our list when looking for a partner. And listen, we're a large organization, right? And we care deeply about quality and compliance. So that mattered a lot, Clark. And between the word of mouth and your presentation to us, it made this decision a relatively easy one. And of course, this wasn't like a blind leap of faith, though. Like, right, we made sure to, and we'll talk about this, we made sure to implement things gradually before making any enterprise commitment.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we try to make it as low friction as possible, and right, it's kind of built by pharmacists, so we make sure we're covered on a compliance aspect. But so we of course we try to make it low friction, but one point of friction like that is going to come up. I talk to a lot of folks and they're bought in, they know this is where it's going and they need to do something like this, but they have to kind of bring it up to their staff, right? Um, so I'm curious like how that conversation went. Like, did you frame it in a certain way or like because ultimately they're the ones that are oftentimes helping train this bot. So you kind of need to have buy-in from there or from them. Yeah, wondering how those conversations went.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think I think there was some reasonable skepticism at first, right? I think the team was skeptical and rightfully so. These bots meant taking work away from our, hardworking data entry team, and there was a whole group of pharmacists who now had to, make sure every prescription a bot typed was correct. And of course, they do that for a human too, but they're being now extra judgmental, right? If I'm being honest, because they assume that the bot was going to execute perfectly from day one, right? And that's a hard conversation to have. And it was, you know, we 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 gained buy-in over time. I think once we proved that the bots could accurately type prescriptions, and like I mentioned, like the data entry team was already handling a lot of monotonous ones. So the team now could focus on the more meaningful, complex prescriptions. And that's where things started to turn around with like the perception of, what was actually happening here, right? We had fun with it. Um, the team actually got to name the bots, right? Which is, fun. Our first one's name is Roxy, by the way, Clark. So, we started Roxy sometime in 2025, and as our bot army grew, the team has been now super receptive, right? They help shape the bot's progress by giving real-time feedback to the small team that we have managing this relationship, including myself. And then, one thing. I guess one thing worth mentioning is, and for everyone out there that's trying to do this, we have one of our most trusted pharmacists helping me run these bots, right? Someone that was in the day-to-day workflows with our verification, our PD1 step. And he's the point person when it comes to working with you guys, when it comes to working with your engineers, whether that's improving the bot logic, or just handling overall maintenance. I think it made the team much more comfortable knowing that although the bots were typing the prescriptions, that there was a human helping to manage and guide them. So probably a long-winded answer to tell you that there was skepticism that slowly went away. But we have a bought-in team now, and the team that is managing this relationship with me is doing an excellent job of making sure we just communicate with the humans on staff to know that when there are changes to the bot or when we need to tweak something or when there may be a time where we may see an uptick in error rate because of something we did internally to help uh, influence the bot to do something perfectly for us, that they're on board, and now it's the bot is just another team member.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's one thing. I think I mean, staff learns pretty quickly, right? We need to build these bots like custom to the pharmacy. Like every pharmacy operates a little bit different. So we need a little bit of like a point person and really good communication from the team to help train it around your rules, right? It's
Yeah,
not a one size fits all thing. And I think your team's done a fantastic job of doing that. So um,
appreciate it.
yeah, I want to actually get into like what the bots actually are doing. So if you can think back to like when we actually started to implement, I guess. What task did you start with? You said data entry was kind of a main piece, but I mean, what did
Yeah.
the first bots do?
Yeah. Well, and obviously I'm only talking about Revive here. I think everyone's experience is going to be a little bit different, but we started very, very narrow. Obviously we started with data entry, like you said, and like I've said a couple times on this call now, because of the nuance in every prescription that comes into a compounding pharmacy, like I've mentioned already, and you'll continue to hear me say the word nuance. We didn't really think like a broad automation push was the right move, right? So we chose to, at the beginning of the implementation, we chose to hone in on one clinic that sends in prescriptions that are consistent and with similar product each and every time and direction sets that were easy to understand. I remember one of your first presentations to us. It was like, is it repeatable? Is it consistent? And is there like a certain logic that happens each and every time? And that's what we went after first, right? Like, let's knock out a low-hanging fruit. And because of that's how we were thinking around things. And we wanted that to be our proof of concept. Our pharmacy system has a prescriber portal that lets prescriptions flow in a much more digestible fashion compared to trying to interpret like a sure script or an ERX, right? So that's where we wanted to start. We said, hey, this is consistent, this is repeatable, let's start there. So, of course, we accept prescriptions to our pharmacy in any compliant format, right? But we just thought it made more sense to knock out these portal ones first. So week over week, we tracked our performance and our error rate, and you guys did as well for us, just to make sure that we were hitting the goals that we'd set out for ourselves, but also the goals that you guys had promised, right? Like you came in and we were holding you to a standard of, hey, like there's a specific error rate that we allow, and anything below that is obviously unacceptable, and we have work to do, and anything above that is, we're in the money, we're green. So. Um, I think we started with one bot, obviously, and that quickly turned into cloning that bot twice, that same bot twice to handle the volume we began to roll out to them. But um, really, we went back and forth with TJM's engineers to build out logic for the bot that wasn't always obvious. Every pharmacy is going to have a different option um, on how directions and day supplies should be structured. But the TJM team, Clark, your team, was open to bending the bot's logic to match what we believed was the best way to process prescriptions, right? In a compliant and for us or for the patients, an easy way to understand matters. So I think most importantly, we wanted um, any team member at the beginning who interacted with prescriptions entered by these bots to be set up for success. So we started narrow, started with one clinic, and then we just grew that out incrementally.
Yeah, it's like determining like a good place to start, right? We're not trying to boil the ocean here. Like we take it one step at a time. Oftentimes, like like certain types of faxes or anything through a portal is a fantastic way to start. Or if you have a certain doctor you want to start with, like you have maybe one or two high volume doctors. We're just looking for any type of like higher volume and any way we can kind of make it a little bit simpler for the bots at first. It's not to say that the bots can't do right the complex things like you said, you're continuing to like refine rules even to this day. So it is a continuous process. But
Yeah,
yeah, when
yeah.
we start,
The
that's really
it does not. it has not ended here, right? Like you said, continuous process. Like we're still pinging your team with ideas on how we can capture as much prescription volume through these bots as possible. So, we appreciate the engineers and what you had mentioned prior, like there also needs to be someone on your side that is like our project manager, and your team has done a great job of making sure we have the resources necessary to, fulfill these dreams of getting these bots to type as much as possible.
Yeah. Yeah, well, thanks. So I guess today, like, well, first question is like, what are the bots actually like physically? Where are the bots at in the pharmacy? Like, do you see them? Or are people interacting with the screen at all? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, so at first, yes. We had designated machines where someone could pop in and watch the bot work, and right, and that was fun. People, all departments would kind of walk in and see the bot working without anyone touching the computer, and for a while it just became something that there was a line out the door, for people to come in and just watch the bot work, right? Um, as we started to grow, and under with your team's recommendation, like it wasn't feasible to just have a room full of like machines running at all time. That would probably be like 120-degree room at that point because of all these laptops running. So you guys had helped us set up everything is kind of running on a virtual server now. So, we're not viewing the bots work anymore. You guys have made some improvements for us where everything is kind of happening on the back end, but we still have visibility into how many bots we have, whether, they are actually working or not, right? And the uptime has been pretty spectacular with making sure that these bots are running 24/7 because that is key, right? Um, there's no breaks for these guys, for these bots. So it's key that we know at all times, either from our IT team or sometimes from your team, that these bots are continuously working, right? As long as there's prescriptions in the queue for them to work on, they should be typing those prescriptions. So Clark, right now we have everything on a virtual server. And we will continue to utilize that just because it just makes more sense instead of having all of these designated laptops sitting around, right? We have everything virtual, and that works for us and it works for you guys as well.
Yeah, yeah, that's oftentimes like a good place to go as people add bots. That yeah, it doesn't make sense to just have take up all the computers that they have or take up an entire room.
Definitely not.
But it is fun at first. Like you get to name the bot, you get to kind of watch it work. I guess if you could think, I guess even more observationally, what like has the actual impact been? What's that delta between how you used to work over a year ago to when you added automation now? Like, what changes have you seen? Like, what's the reduction in data entry processing time? Anything you can like touch on in that piece?
Yeah, I think I think it's made a profound business impact. And with that being said, we still have a long ways to go. So right now, as we're speaking, um, we're at about 60,000 prescriptions typed per month by these bots. And that to put it into context for everyone on the call, that's about 58% of all our incoming volume. Okay, so certainly a huge dent in our prescription volume from month to month. We haven't hired any additional data entry technicians since implementing these bots. And we've actually moved, and this is where we come full circle now with the clinic support technicians. We've moved 10 plus technicians into more critical roles inside the organization, right? So some of those went to my team as clinic support technicians to help out the sales team, and other technicians have gone to other roles across the organization, right? Because no longer are some of these data entry roles needed, which is fantastic, right? We want these people to be put in more clinical, more high impact roles across the organization. So, and like I had mentioned before, we still have a hardworking data entry team handling the other 40 something percent of prescriptions that we haven't automated yet. And kudos to them for continuously, knocking down our queues and working through the tougher prescriptions. Our lead times on getting prescriptions typed and moved to a pharmacist has never been better. Like we've dropped our lead times as far as from receiving a prescription to typing it drastically. With the sheer volume of prescriptions we have coming in each day, sometimes before TJM, we'd be 2 or 3 days backlogged on typing. But now with these bots on board, we're typing prescriptions literally within seconds of them coming in, which is amazing, right? That's immediate. Um, that's an immediate plus for us, for clinics, and obviously for patients, right? So faster lead times all around, and the medications are getting out to our patients quicker, no doubt. Um, I think I think another indirect benefit, Clark, of adding these bots is that it made us look at our internal processes a lot more closely. As we implemented, we realized that some of the workflows that are already available in our pharmacy system maybe weren't being used the way that they were designed to be used. We found that a lot of things that a human would just quietly fix and then move past, were now being flagged by these bots, right? Like the bot was being like, hey, there's an error, and I'm telling you there's an error. And we would look at the prescription and we're like, hey, you're right. This is something that probably due to muscle memory and due to the sheer volume that our technicians and pharmacists were trying to get through, they were most likely fixing these errors and not telling the clinic or not telling someone in leadership to try to get these things actually fixed, right? So we were ignoring the root cause of some of these issues, and now we actually have to go figure out what that is. And that is by far one of the best benefits of this, because we are now we're going back to clinics and saying, hey, we appreciate your business and we appreciate the volume that you are sending us each and every day, but would you mind making a few tweaks to how you send prescriptions into us, right? So overall, I think it's had a lasting impact on us looking internally too, seeing what we could clean up on our end so that we're not just throwing junk at a bot. We're giving it a prescription that it can look at and solve relatively quickly, right? So I think the biggest benefit, um, um, the biggest benefit now is asking ourselves, what else can we do with automation, or what else can we do with TJM?
Yeah, so I guess what are you thinking? Like what else have you've thought through any other workflows? Like what's kind of forward thinking the goal here?
So lofty goal, but we'd love to have 100% of prescriptions to be typed by automation, right? Pie in the sky, Clark. That is the number one goal here, and we've only talked about data entry on this call. So, um, like I had mentioned before, all portal prescriptions now are mostly typed by a bot, and that's the portal that our pharmacy system uses. We've delved into e-scribes, so sure scripts. I'm sure you are aware how messy those can be, especially when a sure script is trying to be sent to a compounding pharmacy. Like a lot of those EHRs were just not designed to send to compounding pharmacies. So it is a bit of a lift, even for a human, to process those prescriptions, because a lot of times it's missing elements that we in the compounding world need each and every time. So we are delving into that, and your team has been gracious enough to, give us a lot of time to figure out how to automate that as best as possible, allowing the bots to really look at the prescription and say, okay, all the elements are here. They may be in weird areas of the prescription because that's how these sure scripts work. But how is TJM, how are these bots able to grab any prescription that comes in via eScribe and figure out how to type it for us, right? So we're currently working on that. And then really the last piece would be fax prescriptions, right? So we actually haven't jumped into that, Clark. You guys certainly touted that, or sold that to us as a ability of these bots, and we're excited to get that rolling. We have very big accounts that still fax us prescriptions. Fax is still a thing in 2026 and probably will continue to be in the pharmacy world. But these prescriptions are very repetitive and they look the same each and every time. So we've already discussed with your team, Clark, of probably getting this off the ground here in the next couple of months. So all of that to say, for data entry, 100% volume being typed is the goal. And as close as we can get to there as possible with a very low error rate is what we're going to shoot for. Now, We are also our latest bot is helping us read and decide what to do with specific tasks generated by patients in our system. So I'm not going to go into too in the weeds there because every pharmacy system is going to be a little bit different. But if a patient calls and wants a refill or uses our automated line to request a refill, that drops into our buckets as a task, and the bots are we're working with TJM for a bot to read those tasks and then decide what to do with that, right? Is it to pass it off to a human? Is it to process something? Is it anything that any way to adjudicate each and every task that comes into our system is just another one less call that we have to make to a patient, one less call we have to make to a clinic, and one less task that a technician or another team member has to do for us. So once again, just trying to go through all these monotonous tasks, things that uh, do not have any type of clinical judgment needed, and passing this off to some type of automation through TJM. Um, and then I think the one thing we're currently working on, this is not stood up yet, but we're also working on a bot to help with accounting, with like invoice generation. So we're trying to get creative here, right? We have an innovation roadmap. I think we still have a few other items left to dream up for you guys that, we're not ready to ask for yet, but we're super excited, and we can't wait to see what this looks like in 6 months' time.
Yeah. Excited as well. I mean, there's a lot of really creative kind of use cases that we see over time. I mean, data entry is kind of the obvious one, but as people grow, like they really think of kind of unique things that they can maybe do in the compounding lab, or yeah, unique ways of making certain prescriptions a priority or reaching out to certain patients. But yeah, you touched on a couple times, like you said 58% automated. Um, but I think it'd be helpful if you could share like how you've set up like the guidelines that you want the bots to operate within. And like I know over time you want them to be able to handle more and more, but I, as of now, like what happens when the bot is not completely confident on a prescription, or you've told this bot not to handle this prescription? Like what happens? Like where does it get sent? What happens there?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we were also curious of that when we first started with you guys, right? So the last thing we want is for the bot to not know how to do something and then just drop it, right? Maybe mark it complete and just let go of that task, right? We don't know where that task is then. The bot certainly doesn't, and that's now a lost prescription, which, in our eyes just can't happen, right? So this is something that we discussed with you guys pretty early on. Um, and if the bot is unsure of what to do or is blocked maybe by a system setting, right? Maybe the prescriber's DEA is expired, and your pharmacy system has a block on that. So that prescription can't be saved, or would require some kind of human intervention. We worked with TJM to have it ping us and place the prescription on some kind of hold status, which has been excellent. So you guys give us visibility to each and every prescription that the bot processes. And then if there's any kind of rejection, that is pinged to us via an integration via our Microsoft suites. But you guys also provide us, like I said, like a growing list of each and every prescription that the bot types. So I think that is such a valuable feature because, like I had mentioned, we never want anything to get lost or sent somewhere where we don't know about it or where it is. So we made it very clear from the beginning that we needed very obvious notifications when something like this happens. And you guys were able to meet us right in the middle there, and we have the appropriate pings to then that gets passed off to a human, and then we do a full root cause as to why could the bot not process this? Is it a clinic issue? Is it an internal issue? Maybe it's a bot issue, right? Like the bot is learning new things each and every day. Is it something that we have to get with the TJM engineering team with and talk about it? Sure. Is it something we have to go back to the clinic with and talk about, hey, you need to prescribe this way instead of that way? Sure. Is it something we're doing internally that we didn't know about? Absolutely. But like I said, and like I mentioned before, that one of the best things here is that we are now able to root cause a lot of this stuff that maybe was probably being ignored in the past, and really hone in and find a lasting solution.
It's awesome. I know we're running up here on time, but I don't have a ton else for you. I'm curious if we have anything coming in the QA.
Hey everybody, yeah. So I just we did get a few questions in, but just a reminder too, if any questions are on the top of your mind, just pop them into the QA section. But yeah, happy to jump into some of them that came in. So one that came in is how do you continue identifying new workflows to automate as your business evolves? So TJ, I think you touched on that a little bit in terms of the different use cases, kind of where you started and where you went. But I don't know, can you give us a little bit more insight into maybe the internal discussions, how you guys think about additional workflows?
Yeah, so and I'll reiterate this. We track internally where admin load is growing faster than headcount, right? That is simply put, where are we where are we running out of space, right? Where is the volume of that certain task just being too much for a human to process day in, day out? And we once again we need to be looking for tasks that are repetitive and rule-based rather than something that is going to require some type of human judgment or clinical decision making. So from there, once we have identified some kind of admin load, we'll type it up, we'll dream it up, and then we'll ask Clark, Joel, and the rest of TJM for the moon when it comes to whatever we've identified.
Makes sense. Makes sense. One question came in, Clark, and maybe you want to handle this one. It says where he's intrigued by what PMS we've seen best alignment with. I'm sure, where we're really PMS agnostic. I think we probably have a good answer there.
Yeah. We're PMS agnostic. I think we work in like 27 or 28 different systems. Um, but in compounding wise, the most common ones we see definitely Pharmatica, LifeFile. See a lot of Pioneer folks, but then we're also very familiar with like C compounding and PCCA. We recently became their preferred automation partner, so we're very familiar with PK. So I know I just kind of like rambled off like almost
Mhm.
every single pharmacy management system within the compounding world, but that's the truth, right? We work with almost 150 compounders today, so we've seen them all. Um,
Definitely. Awesome. Next question that came in. What advice would you offer pharmacy leaders that are curious about AI, but maybe still a little bit on the fence for adopting it? TJ, maybe you should take that one.
Yeah. Well, don't be scared. It's AI is here, um, and just start narrow and make sure internally that you have a team that's motivated to work with your AI partner to get this off the ground, right? It's a two-way street, and just make sure that team is very in tune with your pharmacy system and knows the ins and outs of what is currently happening when you're doing these tasks with a human involved. Because if you don't know that, it becomes infinitely more difficult when you then just throw in AI without truly understanding what that workflow is. So get a proof of concept up and running, and then begin the scale from there. Let AI support the team. Don't let it replace human judgment. But just make sure you have your ducks in a row before doing this.
Yeah, definitely. Couple other questions came in. Is there suggested number of compounded prescriptions per month or day to make adding the bot worthwhile? What do you?
yeah, I can do that one. I mean, it really just depends. Like you're hiring a technician essentially that can work 24 hours. So we want that bot to work as much as possible, right? So we work with folks even down to like below 100 compounds a day. But obviously the more volume you get, the more value you're going to get out of it, 'cause that's just more for the bot to do. Um, but typically the smaller folks, we start with what we can and as far as the data entry, the bot will work through that fairly quickly, and then we kind of open up the conversation as far as what do we want the bot doing in its downtime. It's very likely you have some other workflows that are redundant, which one bot can do multiple things. We'll set it up on a schedule at that point. Um, so oftentimes the next step is like patient communication, or some other kind of custom workflow that folks have in mind. But We work with compounders of all sizes. I know TJ's a larger compounder. We have folks down 80 to 100 scripts a day. But happy to work with you to make sure it makes sense.
Yeah. Great, makes sense. There's a question about maybe a specific use case, but asking if can bots be used for inventory. By that I mean ways the bot has access to the inventory quantities, and then the bots can go in to the wholesalers or platforms signed up and place orders for products. Is that potentially a use case?
Yeah, I mean that's something we've been asked for. We just really need insight into how you do that, right? It all comes down to how comfortable you are with the bot doing certain things, and we need to have set out guidelines for the bot to follow. Right? I'm sure TJ can attest to like just once we decide a task that we want to automate, we really need you to walk us through whatever that task is step by step. But if we can't define those tasks, then we have trouble. But um, it's definitely there's a lot of potential for this automation if you can build out those rules.
Yeah, I think that's one of the most important parts, while we were working with you, and something that we've driven home to our other departments that are trying to work with you, right? It's that walkthrough. It needs to be specific, needs to be repeatable, and you can't leave anything out of it, right? The more information we give you guys, then you can tell us whether it's feasible or not.
Makes sense, makes sense. Well, we're right on time here. One question came in. What states are these bots accepted in? Uh,
Oh,
all states, I believe, right, Clark?
yeah, yeah. We're not messing with the pharmacist process at all. We haven't had any issues with certain states.
Great, great. All right. Well, I know we're right at time. So this has been an amazing discussion. TJ, thank you so much for your insights. I think our audience got a really, really great taste of kind of what that was like for you and ReviveRX. Thank you all, everybody in the audience for joining. Thanks, Clark, for leading an amazing discussion.